Hello one, hello all. They're stopping aid to Gaza due to the fact it's a genocide, and we really need to push back. We really need to let our leaders know, but the leaders are the colonizers, so it's time to speak to other leaders and put into play a revolution, a stop to this ongoing Holocaust that we're living in today. Free Palestine. Ghost of them all, Casper in the Flesh, and it's time for a review of Spiritbox-Tsunami C. This is the sophomore LP of Canadian metal band Spiritbox, who has members of the band I Wrestled a Bear Once, and when I say part of the band, I mean the vocalists, such as Mike Stringer, Courtney LaPlante, I hope I'm saying that name right. So I assume if you're familiar with this dynamic I'm speaking on, it's like how the Smile is to Radiohead, as Spiritbox is to I Wrestled a Bear Once. You're getting similar members here, not the same band, but similar members. And I'm noticing Spiritbox has gained a lot of success lately, mainly with their popularity, with their placement on the Billboard charts, how they hit #1 in the rock section. And as far as streaming goes, 3.5 million listeners a month. And honestly, I can understand why people would be into Spiritbox, because honestly, there's an audience for it. There's a market for it. People do like, the cleanliness. They do like the melodic elements of a metal song. They like a little heaviness, but they may like, a little melody here, a little hook there. And they really don't sound bad. In fact, I think they're taking some risks here, and it's really showing. So, yeah, I can understand why Spiritbox is popular. I can understand the hype behind them. Like, I could see how your average commercial metal listener today mostly don't want to hear something overly heavy. They just want to hear something that's semi-heavy, catchy hook, nice guitar riffs here and there. They're not really into the extremity factor. At least that's what I'm picking up on. So when it comes to Djent, which the genre they're pretty much in, which is the style they pretty much have, it's not necessarily my thing. I really do not care for the sanitary production. I don't care for the super mechanical drums. So with the exception of Meshuggah, early Meshuggah, the Djent isn't really my bag. It's not really my thing. And that's not really taken away from their talent. I do really dig a good blood-curdling scream vocal. I do love a good guttural vocal. I do love visceral vocals. And also, I do like my guitar riffs heavy, but I like them natural sounding. I like them sounding like they came from a dungeon, not overly produced, not to a point where it sounds too perfect. And if you're a Spiritbox fan, I can see why you would enjoy this. I would see why you would love this. I could even see why this would be your album of the year. Because honestly, I do get some guttural growls here. I do get some nice guitar riffs. I do get some intensity. But if you're the type of person that doesn't like cleanliness, if you're the type of person that just likes that heavy chaos with not too many vocal lines, this album's probably not for you. And honestly, I do share those same sentiments. I do. Like, I wasn't really enamored with their last LP. I feel like they really adhered to this very safe for them type of style where very melodic, not much going on in terms of being adventurous, really sticking to alt pop and alt metal in a way. Like, they strayed away from the insane and wild, and it's pretty much interesting to me because even though I Wrestled a Bear Once isn't one of my favorite bands in the whole wide world, I could at least say they were manic at points, but I don't think they really expanded too much from that on their debut record. But I could say, though, they really brought elements here that led to some of my favorite tracks on the whole record. Like, the factors for me that I found most enjoyable were more of the industrial moments, one of the most crushing industrial moments. Like, the key components for me that really made this enjoyable was the crushing sequence drums that created a lot of chaos. And there are moments here where they put a robotic effect on Courtney's voice, but not in a cleanly way, in more of a way where she sounds like this robot that's announcing that the apocalypse is here, everyone evacuate immediately, and you see these crowds of people just dispersing, running for their lives. And I can say there are moments here that aren't entirely cleanly produced. While they do sound robotic, at least there's a personality to it, at least there's an identity to it, and I feel it really adds to the dark dystopia that this album is really going for at points. Like how there are guitar embellishments here, which makes it sound like malfunctioning, haywire computer technology, but that's what they're going for. And I think with the effects they put on here, I think they pulled that off really well and really added to the personality of the record. Like there are moments here where the guitars sound like sci-fi computer data searching. And there is a lot of accompaniment and heaviness in the chords, which you know I love. Knocked Loose, hello. You know I love that shit. And the dark guitar melodies really give this thing that huge futuristic sound that I love. And again, there are moments here where the guitars are like so noisy at points and squealing at some points, but sound electronic. They sound like a computer going absolutely haywire, about to explode. So yes, it does sound mechanical, but I feel that's pretty much the point. And the song Black Rainbow has these thunderous shots of drums and bass. Like the whole thing just sounds like a giant robot just eviscerating half of society with a death beam. And again, I feel like the heavy bass and effects are really there to bolster the band's creativity. And with the veracity and the anger that Courtney puts in her vocals is just, it sounds otherworldly at points. She sounds like a friggin' space demon. So I think when it comes to the heavy dystopian manic parts is where the band really shines most, in my opinion. I even love the moments where the bass is given moments to have the space to gurgle and slap over these ringing tones that transitions into this almost warped guitar bass with this propeller-like percussion. But we also get these very bizarre laser-like effects that I believe to be guitar, and they're just expanding. They're so bright. And I love the moody guitars on No Love, No Loss. And there is Ride the Wave, which normally is a track that I wouldn't necessarily be too much a fan of. I wouldn't really find the cleans too enjoyable, or this wall of like droning bass. I wouldn't really be into that. However, I do think the ending is very gratifying though. Like I do like the moody atmospheric guitar points. They really sound like something out of like old school nu metal. But God, the ending is so colossal and crushing. And the drones, the shredded vocals really give it that gratifying finish. And the drones, the shredding vocals really give it that gratifying transition. Now, as much as I like those tracks, I do think that they do start to play things safe. A little too safe and a little too sanitary, and really does bring out the more djenty side that I'm really not too crazy about. Like Fata Morgana really does have a heavy start, but then goes into this really unnecessary, very claustrophobic, very unflattering ethereal territory that really wasn't necessary in my opinion, really didn't need to be there. Like I think it just really ruins the aggression that this track had and really messes up the momentum that this track had too. But I don't think it's as claustrophobic or unnecessary as Keep Sweet, that has these super weak breakbeats and super overproduced vocals that actually sound robotic, actually sound AI, and not in the way that like creates a dystopian atmosphere or feel. No, it just feels like tacked on, unnecessary processing that her vocals didn't really need. It doesn't add to the futuristic tone, it just makes them sound so soulless. And that's another thing that sets me back from enjoying this record as a whole. Way too many sanitary cleans when it comes to the vocals. And the drums just sound way too mechanical. Man, like, they just sound like typewriters, and really this does go to show my biggest gripe. This is a perfect example of my biggest gripe of the Djent genre. Not only that, but these really tedious walls of like blaring guitar tones that just sound so played out. They were played out in the nu metal post-grunge era, and I really don't like them here. Not only that, but we're also getting these really boring detours and melodies. And I know that might upset some people that really love this band, but hey, this is just my opinion. And look, this album had something for me as an industrial fan, as a fan of metalcore, and I'm someone who likes ferocity. I'm someone who likes their metal crushing, bloodthirsty, but also creative too. It's okay to be spacey. It's okay to be cold. It's okay to be atmospheric. But there needs to be some type of human touch at points. There needs to be that consistency. There needs to be some character, personality. There needs to be something engaging here. You know, like a Krallice record, like that Blood Incantation album that I thought was great, absolute everywhere. But there are points where it's just too clean, too melodic, too spacey, and doesn't really add to the sci-fi feel that I love when it comes to this type of metal. And honestly, you know, I'm not really a Djent guy. I'm not. I'm more industrial, honestly. Even progressive metal too, but, you know, not too clean, not too technical to a point where it sounds like robots. But look, I think this is a decent record. But it's not one of my favorite records. It's not one of my favorite metal records of the year. Like, the heavy, destructive parts I thought were great. I love the intricate moments when it came to the guitar playing. And the vocals, at some points, with the growled vocals, I thought were good. But again, there's a lot of djentiness and cleanliness holding me back from enjoying this album. There's some sweet points that I just can't get with. Because honestly, you know, if I wanted to hear those type of vocals, I would listen to pop music. I would listen to electronic music. But hey, that's just how I'm feeling. So I'm feeling a 3 out of 5 black hearts on this album. But if you've given this a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. Caspa got the ghost. Spiritbox-Tsunami C. Till we meet again.